An offseason that is inching closer as I
Yes, I was
crush
going
my
to say, there's a
transitions.
lot to talk about in the offseason
I'm
whenever we get
crushing
to
my
it.
transitions right now, Rachel. I'm crushing them. An offseason inching closer is one in Milwaukee. Down 2-0 after a loss to the Pacers on Tuesday. I'm
I see
not
what
ready to write. I'm not ready to write the Bucks off in this series just yet. Damian Lillard missed game one, came back in game two after missing a month and a half because of deep vein thrombosis, which sounds every bit as terrifying as it probably is. You can't expect him to hit the ground running, coming right back, and he didn't look all the way back in that game two. Now the Bucks go home, and they'll try to figure things out from there, and I think they still can. I don't think the Pacers are this unbeatable bunch. Halliburton, Siakam, Turner, like they're good players, but I think they're still very much beatable. But I mean, if they wind up going out in this series, like Giannis is playing out of his mind. Right, he's got 70 points and 33 rebounds in the first couple of games. Like he has been outstanding. If they can't win a series like this, I expect significant changes. I expect there to be a serious conversation within the camp of Giannis Antetokounmpo about what his future needs to be. He's in his early 30s, and he's on a Bucks team that if they bow out, again, big ifs and all this, they could rally, win the next two games in Milwaukee, turn this into a series, advance the second round. A lot of things can happen if you're Milwaukee. When you have two stars the caliber of Giannis and Dame, a lot of positive things can happen. Right now, we're talking about a team down 0-2. Lillard has been out for a long time. Last year was kind of it was Dame's first year. We got him late in training camp. It didn't come together as quickly. You can't have that excuse this year. And with Dame getting a year older, with Giannis getting a year older, with Brook Lopez getting a year older, with Bobby Portis getting a year older, all these guys who are in their early, mid, late 30s, if I'm Giannis, I'm probably looking around going like, have we hit our ceiling? And I say that because he's been so public, Rachel, over the last few years about needing to be on a team that can compete for a championship. Like he has put his team, on notice multiple times about continuing to build around him. And to their credit, to their front office credit, John Horst, they've continued to do that. They go get Jrue Holiday. They win a championship because of that. When that kind of hit its ceiling, they go get Damian Lillard. Didn't really help that Boston got Jrue Holiday, but that's a separate conversation. They've done everything I think they possibly can, short of drafting better, to build out the roster on this team. But if they can't beat Indiana in the first round, this is another team that I expect to take a real long look in the mirror. And I expect Giannis, who is still an MVP caliber player, to do the exact same. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Bucks have been pretty responsive every time he's talked about that kind of stuff. I mean, right before not this past contract, but the contract before, he started kind of putting that stuff out there, and boom, they went and got Jrue, and then they won a title. And this time, he started putting that stuff out there again, and there were clearly some conversations because he had talked about wanting to play with a guy like Dame for years, and they went out and got him Dame. And then, by the way, it's not just that Dame came late to training camp and it didn't quite gel. Giannis was hurt last year in the playoffs. In fact, I believe Giannis has been hurt in the last two playoffs. And this time, Dame is not 100%. So while I do think Giannis could end up being a Kevin Garnett type arc where he does stay with a team and is loyal to a team for a long time, but then eventually decides to go somewhere else and maybe wins a title somewhere else, I can see that. And in fact, he was on his brother's podcast, shout out Thanalysis.
Great pod. I've listened to it. Yeah.
I know. And he talked about, he doesn't feel that his career will sort of have the rounded out mark it needs to be if he's only a one-time title winner. That the career he is putting out there, sort of the painting, his brushstrokes are painting with these incredible games and incredible seasons, needs to be a multi-champion kind of career. And that's true, by the way. He is that level of a player. He should be a multi-ring kind of guy. So I think eventually you could see it. I would be surprised personally if it was this summer, only in that they did what he wanted them to do, and he was hurt before. Dame was hurt this year. I think it's a little hard for someone, I don't want to say loyal because I hate it when that word is used in sports, but someone who is a good partner to the organization to just get up and be like, I have had it. This is it. When there were so many extenuating circumstances and the franchise has done what he wanted them to do, I don't see him as the kind of guy to just turn around and say, screw you anyway. I want to go somewhere else. I do think if they lose in this first round, I don't know if Doc Rivers is sticking around, and I don't know if Horst is sticking around. And even if Horst does stick around, I think they have to have a major roster reorganization because, as you said, a lot of the guys that helped them win the title are too old and expensive for what they provide to make it work.
Underdog just became one of the best places to make picks during the basketball playoffs with their Extender promo. With the Extender, you can play your way to increasingly bigger boost each round of the playoffs. Underdog is a leading place to make all your sports picks, and you can play now in your state. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? To play, all you have to do is download the app and choose whether a player will go higher or lower in one of their stats. You can choose things like points, assists, and so much more. If you get your picks correct, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So you could turn $1 into $1,000 with just your hoops knowledge. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at the NBA playoffs and selecting Anthony Edwards for higher than 24 points and Luka Doncic for higher than 8 assists. So download the Underdog app and sign up with the promo code OPENFLOOR to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code OPENFLOOR. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona and Massachusetts, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/extend.html for details. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. I think in years past, I would have had more faith in the Bucks' ability to reorganize, as you said, to shake things up. But because of the moves that they made, including the one that helped them win a championship, they're largely tapped out of draft capital. Like, they just don't have the assets to go make a Drew Holiday trade. They can't go do Damian Lillard 2.0. They have made the moves they've had to make to build the championship roster around Giannis and put them in the position they're in right now. And I just don't know what other cards they have left to play. There's another part of this, and I don't want to put the cart too far ahead of the horse because it would not shock me whatsoever to see the Bucks win Game 3, win Game 4, put a lot of pressure on the Pacers going back for a Game 5. It wouldn't shock me at all to see Damian Lillard get back to being Damian Lillard as he gets healthier and healthier coming off this injury. But being down 2-0, you have to explore at least. And like, if you're Milwaukee, if you were going to shake things up, isn't this the offseason to do it? Like, Giannis has got 2 years left of his contract. So wherever you trade him to, they're going to have control of him for at least the next 2 seasons. Are you shaking your head? Maybe not. Maybe you never. Maybe you're probably of the opinion that you don't trade a star of that caliber. But,
Correct.
But like,
see Mavericks, comma Dallas. No, I really believe that that this team is lucky as hell to have Giannis. They've all acknowledged that, and they should hold on to him for as long as he wants to stay there. And even if they never win a title for the rest of his tenure, and he stays, that is a win for the Milwaukee Bucks, a franchise that never gets free agents, frankly. And once he leaves, we'll be in the wilderness for quite some time, I think, if past experience tells us. I don't care who they trade for. You know, our friend Brian Windhorst always says with big stars, you know, you never get $1 back, you get 4 quarters. And I just, whoever
well,
they
yeah,
could
I mean, that's true. Like, that's true.
He's not going to put people in the stands. He's not going to be beloved in the community. He is attached to that community. When Nico Harrison gets up there and says, I didn't know quite how attached the people in Dallas were to Luka, that's mind-blowing to me because I've never lived in Dallas and I knew how attached they were to Luka.
Yeah, that was a bad time.
But I have spent quite a bit of time in Milwaukee, and I can tell you that those people feel so attached to Giannis, to his wife, to his kids. He has made his family part of that city. And I don't think they should ever trade him until he asks them to. And I think they feel the same way.
Well, I differentiate from the Luka stuff because I'm convinced, you're probably convinced, everybody that covered the Dallas Mavericks is convinced Luka Doncic was going to sign that Supermax
Of
this
course.
summer. Like he was going to want to be in Dallas and tie himself there for the next 5 years. I think the question is like, how committed will Giannis be to Milwaukee if this season doesn't end the way that he wants it to end after back-to-back early playoff exits? I think that's going to be the conversation. Like they're going to have a conversation with, John Horst, who I think should still run the front office. Like I don't put much of this on John. Like what else are you going to do?
I'm not advocating for anyone's dismissal. I'm just saying.
I agree. No, I know.
If Giannis is going to ask for a trade, they've got to turn around and do something. So hopefully those guys keep their jobs, because I want everyone to keep their jobs always. And I think we're too casual about that in sports world. But yeah, I mean, look, again, I would be very surprised if Giannis asked out this summer, just because of all the circumstances around what has gone on in that franchise the last couple of years, the degree to which they've catered to him, and the degree to which injuries have slowed them down. Twice his own injuries. So it's not just injuries of the other people, it's his own body that has kind of failed at the wrong time, so to speak. So I don't expect him to ask out this summer. If next summer, when he has a year left on his deal, no, they're not trading him with, quote, as much control over him as they say in contract language, but who cares? I mean, Giannis is 30 right now. You said early 30s. He is 30. So if in a year, when he's 31 and he's got a year left on his deal, and teams feel like, oh, if he comes to New York, if he comes to Miami, if he comes to, I mean, look, there are a lot of people talking about, oh, what if Giannis went to the Spurs? And a 31-year-old Giannis and a Victor Wembanyama pairing, I can't even begin on that one. So
I'm wondering, I'm wondering what if Giannis goes to Oklahoma City? That's the one I'm looking at. Like,
but by the way,
because
he'll have some say in it. But again, he is not the kind of guy to hold a team captive to, I will only go to one place. I'm going to sit out until you trade me. Look, there have been times we've seen it from Jimmy Butler, from James Harden. Giannis just isn't that guy. I don't think he's going to be endlessly, quote unquote, loyal. I think there will be a point where he might say, look, I need to go somewhere else, and ask them to trade him. But that's okay, as long as you're not a jerk about it on the way out. And I don't think he will be. I think if that happens next summer, the Bucks will have plenty of options to try to do something. And that until he does say those magic words, they shouldn't have a conversation with him. They shouldn't bring it up. They shouldn't discuss it, because honestly, having the onus be on the player is part of the strength that these organizations have. You have to be the bad guy publicly, because it always gets out, who came and asked for a trade. And that is hard for a lot of guys who want to be a good guy, who have been involved in the community. And I think that for them, their smartest move is, whistling past the graveyard and try to make the team around him better. I really do.
Yeah. I don't know if that's their smartest move at this point.
I get it.
And I differ on the whole, how, building around stars, trading stars, whatever Windhorst said, 4 quarters on the dollar there. Like, I mean, I just, from my own, watching Boston do what it did in the early 2010s, right? Mm-hmm. Where they had a team that was a second round contender. Paul Pierce still in, not the twilight of his career, but still in the good part still of his career. Kevin Garnett was still playing. Rajon Rondo was injured. I think he tore his Achilles that year, the last year they all played together. But he was still young enough. Like, they could have kept that team together, plowed forward, tried to tinker around the edges. Instead, they got proactive. They found a desperate team in the Brooklyn Nets who were all in on getting Paul Pierce. Then were all in on getting Kevin Garnett. They found a team willing to give up first-round draft capital in Dallas that needed a player like that. And it took them some time, but now they're set up for the next 5 years, right? They won a championship, and now they're set up. I'm always, always, always a believer that even though it's tough, being proactive is better than being reactive.
But Chris, Boston is not Milwaukee. Okay. Boston gets free agents, and Boston is a glamour team in the NBA. It is one of the glamour teams in the NBA. And also, you are forgetting the fact that Danny Ainge practices mind control, and none of the other GMs in the league seem to be able to do this, because the deal he made with Brooklyn, the deal he made with Dallas, the deal he made with Philadelphia. I mean, literally, I remember talking to GMs around that time after those 3 moves saying, I don't want to answer the phone when Danny calls. Literally saying, I just don't answer it, because whatever he's going to try to talk me into I'm going to look terrible in 2 years. And so I do think having an executive like that makes a difference. I think some luck makes a difference. If Markelle Fultz isn't a bust or whatever it is, if Jason Tatum ends up differently, obviously the talent evaluation in Boston is elite. We just have to acknowledge that at this point. And it's a place that people will want to go play. Kevin Garnett wanted to go play there. Milwaukee, historically, has not been a place people have wanted to play. It took them from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar asking for a trade, by the way, asking out in the middle of the season, which was unheard of at that point. They never got an equivalent caliber player until Giannis came along. What was it, 30 years later? I mean, more? I mean, my math, I'm not doing the exact math.
But you think, now. just to I want to, Kevin Garnett, I don't know if he really wanted to go to Boston. I think Sam Cassell had to talk him into it back then. I think Kevin Garnett wanted to go a place he could win, right? I think if they don't do the deal for Ray Allen, I don't think they get Kevin Garnett. I don't think he buys all the way in to that. I think players, there's some players that are going to rule out certain markets. Like you go back to the Derek Harper days. If you go play in Utah, there's some of that still in the NBA. But I think as much as anything else, guys want to go where they can win. I just think
history doesn't say that about Milwaukee getting free agents. I don't know. We'll see.
They don't. No, they don't get free agents. And part of the problem is that they have not drafted well the last few years. And I think I always say this. Success is determined by draft picks, right? If you are hitting the way Memphis in recent years has hit on some of these late 20s picks, if you're hitting on these guys that can be part of your rotation in late the first round, early second round, that's what makes you successful in the wrong one. The Bucks have not done that. Now we're probably going to sit here next week, Rachel, and talk about the Bucks being up 3-2. So this whole argument is going to be completely wasted in the moment.